Alright, hey guys, it's like this is our last good day before this next relatively cold front moves in. It's definitely going to be rainy, but as far as targeting these bass that are attracted to warmer water, you know, with the warm afternoon sun, these conditions, you know, make it a little easier to find those active bass. So I think today's our last good day for maybe a week, so I'm gonna make it count. Even though I'm beaten and broken from work yesterday, I had to handle, I think we handled 30 800-pound trees that were not easy on the body. My back, my knees, my feet, my hands, all the above. I think I deserve its fish because just about anyone else would be on the freaking couch after a rough day like that, especially if you're not used to it. But yeah, so I think I should be rewarded a fish today. I think today's the day. Last time I had this feeling, I did get a fish. I got that feeling again, and so here we go. But before I get to that, I keep forgetting to find my tips. You know, I'm trying to throw some tips out there while I'm fishing, and I just, with how crazy work is, I don't really get time to go through and find my tips to throw it onto a video. So I'm just gonna throw a tip on my intro here. Lake selection. Lake selection, I think, is key if you want to catch consistently early spring. And I think the best lakes are obviously warmer lakes, early season. So if you're trying to get that first bass, you know, earlier in the spring, you know, April might be early to you. Used to be for me. Now March is early for me. And now what I've done is I fished different lakes early spring and found a common denominator, maybe common sense for most people, but I just had to work at it. I had my favorite lakes, you know, that fished well, you know, later, that I thought, oh shoot, I know they hold big fish, so I'm going early and I'm gonna pound the waters. And so even my favorite lakes don't fish in February, early March. Just doesn't happen. It wasn't until I started poking around on other lakes that actually fish crappier later in the season, actually fished pretty well early spring. And the common denominator is warmer water. So you got to think of generally three things. Exposure to sunlight, you know, obviously the lake, if it's in the shade, it's not going to get as warm. The temperatures of the runoff going into the lake, that's key as well. So if you have like sort of best case scenario is like farm runoff, you know, irrigation ponds, that sort of thing, because you're running through some you know, compost and manure and things like that that actually stay warm, and then it pushes into the lake and keeps it maybe a couple degrees warmer than other lakes. And so that's key. If you think about that, like, you don't want to be at the base of a small mountain where we literally early season have snow melt, because obviously that water coming in is going to be chilly. That's something to think about. And the last thing is depth. Obviously shallower lakes warm up before deep lakes. So if you try to line up all of those things like I have, then you end up at least picking your good start lake. And now as I go through the pre-spawn, I switch lakes. So my favorite lake that actually is a little colder, I switch to in April. So you see, I go from the warmest lake to my favorite lakes, and then you could go to the deepest, coldest lakes, you know, April, May, because that's going to fish a little bit more like pre-spawn versus spawn. right? And then you do it all over again, right? Then you can go back to the start, because those lakes will spawn first. The warmest lakes will spawn first, and then you go through it again. You go from the warmest lakes, you know, middle ground there, you know, sort of deep, maybe colder runoff, to ultra deep. So that way you can hit your spawns at the same time, if you're a bed fisherman. I know not everyone is. But then you could kind of make your own schedule. And it doesn't matter where you live. You can find some of these lakes and just make a little schedule. And if you stick to it, your pre-spawn will be good, your spawn will be good, and then your post-spawn won't be as bad, because you can avoid the lakes that are going into post-spawn earlier, if that makes any sense. So that's my number one tip for setting up your success in early spring, and it's lake selection. That's literally the one thing I do better than most, and it rewards me with more fish. I'm not going to claim to be the best fisherman, but since I do think that through, it seems to reward me. And you can see on my resume, fish brain, whatever, YouTube, that I catch a lot of fish earlier in the season. I guarantee you that's why. So anyway, I hope that tip helps. Let's hit the water. Hopefully we can get another fish. Oh yeah. It's a nice fish. It's a good fish. We're going for a little ride, buddy. That's a good fucking fish. Alright. Come on, come to daddy. Oh yeah, that's a fucking fish. That's a fucking fish. That's a fucking fish right there. That's what I'm talking about.